Very important to be able to exercise indifference to anything if you're going to enjoy your stay in Brooklyn. And we know you're not all from here, but that's okay. We're famous for that. Thank you.
In 2007, I saw Joe playing at his stop at the Metropolitan G train stop. And he pretty much said to me, in not so many words, that he was homeless.
A lot of the songs I sing don't come from me personally. They're characters who are singing the song. But it comes from my understanding of truth.
He's doing something that's so totally his own that it catches your attention.
And I always thought that somehow poverty was a virtue. So being in a level of performance that's not particularly remunerative, I do make barely enough to get by. But that somehow suits my temperament. If there is a will of God, if there is a supposed to be, what you're doing right now, what I'm doing right now, is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Excuse me with the carriage. You need to come over here.
A voice from above. Are there any requests? Skylark, have you seen a valley green with spring where my heart can go? Hi, I'm Joe Crow Ryan. I'm a busker in New York City and a performer in general. Train solo!
Joe Crow Ryan, born Joseph W. Ryan, came into this world on August 6, 1955. He hails from 183rd Street in the Bronx.
My mom died when I was 13, and when I was 15, we moved to Rockland County. So I started playing guitar a little bit and totally sucked. Then I got another guitar while I was in high school, and I wrote my first song. I wrote a love song for my girlfriend, and she begged me, please don't play that in front of people. Not because it was a horrible song, but because I didn't realize I was just inept and inadequate as a performer at that time. So if you see them anywhere, would you lead me there? But guitar, I played it a little bit for a long enough time that I eventually became competent. Yeah, I'd always liked the oddball performers because nobody else really cared for them. They were weird. And I liked it a lot and tried to get my friends to listen, and nobody was really impressed with that. But I guess it formed me as being a different kind of musician.
What are some other jobs that you've had?
Oh my gosh. Jobs in my life. Well, my first real job was before we moved out of the Bronx. I was a delivery boy for a drugstore. I worked at about 4 friendly ice cream stores. And I've worked in a couple of nursing homes and a good handful of hospitals as a nurse assistant. Well, I liked working in the hospital because it was a nice thing to do for people. They needed help. Again, it's, person to person. And it's also kind of macho. Like, I don't think that Arnold Schwarzenegger has ever wiped poop off anybody's butt. I don't think he's ever cleaned a homeless lady in an emergency room. I'd worked there for about 4 years. This is North Shore University Hospital. And then they came to us one day and said, we're going to have a new personnel program called re-engineering. What I heard was re-engineering. The first thought was, I'm not a machine, okay. And then I noticed that even though the insurance companies weren't paying for the day before surgery and establishing the healing milieu, they would pay for end-of-life extension. So I noticed this and I mentioned it to the head nurse. I said, 26 to 32 are all people who should be dead. You know, it's their time. That just is weird, isn't it? It's not right. And she said, well, yeah, it's kind of, that is funny. But then the next day, the head nurse of all head nurses in the hospital called me to her office and in essence said, well, maybe you should take a month off. So I let that pass, and I talked with the psychiatric nurse, and she wanted to prescribe medicine for me right away. I said, no, I don't need medicine. Let's talk. So we got into the idea of stages of life, end stage of life, and also got into the idea of re-engineering, like, because that did bother me, and I explained to her that, you know, I'm not a machine, I'm a human. And she said, but it's just a word. And I said, but it means something. And then I asked her, I said, have you ever read Kurt Vonnegut? And she said, no, what does that have to do with anything? I said, you know what, I'm done with jobs. Jobs are done with me. Who would hire me? If someone wanted to hire me, they could come over to me and tell me, Joe Crow, I would like to hire you. I'm not going to go out to a stranger and say, hi, I'm pretending to be somebody who you'd like to hire, and I'm pretending you're somebody I would like to work for. That's not it. It works out because otherwise I'd be a nurse. But the outcome of this experience was I became homeless.
From April to September of 2007, Joe was left homeless and slept in both Prospect Park and the Brooklyn subways.
The circle be unbroken by and by, oh, by and by. There's a better place awaiting in Bed-Stuy, Lord, in Bed-Stuy.
In 2007, I saw Joe playing at his stop at the Metropolitan G train stop. And I was talking to him, and he pretty much said to me, in not so many words, that he was homeless. The apartment that he had been living in, he couldn't afford to stay in anymore, so he didn't have anywhere to go.
And Justin was there one night, and I asked if he had a couch.
I decided to give him a couch to crash on for a time, and the place that he had been working with, he had had a conflict with them, and basically it ended in a payoff, which wound up being enough for him to actually pay rent at my apartment for 5 months. And one of my other roommates moved out right at that time, so Joe moved in. And we've been roommates since then. So 5 years is my roommate.
I was talking with a young woman at Project Parlor recently. She loves Dr. Zhivago. And we were talking a little bit about Dr. Zhivago. And she said, oh yeah, I have a copy of it. I watch it every year. And I said, oh, I saw that in the movie theater. And I thought, oh yeah, I am older than you, aren't I?
But don't feel too bad, because I felt the same way talking about Total Recall, the original, the other day. So we're both old. So.
Yeah.
Joe is just the kind of guy, he's a ham. Like, he's always playing music, he's always telling his stories. So if you're in the apartment, Joe is there giving you his Joe Crow goodness.
If I die, bury me in a thin box in the jacket Pat made. If I don't die, please don't bury me.
It became the kind of thing where me and my roommates would say to each other, like, you know, it's a shame, like, Joe really needs to be documented. Like, we need to have, like, Joe Crow on CD or something.
See, I'm not alive. Please just let me be.
And apparently we must have been thinking at the same time as another friend of ours named Michael Campbell, who had said to Joe, Joe, I'm getting you in the studio and I'm going to record you.
There's a bite mark on my neck. Someone rearranged my head. There's a sorcerer who checks
And
away
Michael
my
recorded Joe in one day. He knocked out like 25 songs, I want to say. So what we did is One of my other friends, Doug, who plays in my band, he went to the subway and he started recording Joe on the subway. And we also started recording his shows at the sidewalk. And we started to mix them all up. And the CDs are a mixture of that studio stuff that Michael did, live shows that we got, and also just Joe playing in the subway, which is kind of Joe and his elements.
Did you put a spell on me? Did you put a spell on me? Yeah, you put...
And Joe gave it to me and was like, what do you think? Do you want to help me put this out? And I listened to it, and I thought it was great.
Joe Crow Ryan and Justin Reamer are currently working on their third album, which is titled This Machine Kills Purists Volume 3, Part 1, No More Ironing. It is currently scheduled to be released in the fall of 2012.
By the way, tonight's Subway Busk, I am Joe Crow Ryan, I should mention. I am Joe Crow Ryan. Tonight's Sunday Busk is in celebration of the release of a single, a digital single, and I have free download slips for that. If you'd like to hear the song My Arrest. It might be a little while yet for the next train, so I'll proceed to play My Arrest. We will take questions after the song. Whether there are questions or not, we'll take them.
So the day before May Day, we had a bunch of cops bust down our door.
About 5 or 6 plainclothes warrant detectives came into our apartment and woke us up.
Like, they didn't ask to come in. We were asleep. It was like 6 in the morning. They bust down our door.
I think these guys were all intelligence, NYPD intelligence, assigned to warrants for this maneuver.
They rouse us all out of bed. They round us up in the living room, and then they start reading through warrants. And then they're like, is Joseph Ryan here? And then he's like, I'm Joseph Ryan. And they're like, okay, well, we're here for you.
I said, well, look, I thought I was going to be going to Skimmerhorn jail for 24 hours. That's what I thought was going to happen. And they put me in handcuffs, got me into the car. And the first thing they started asking was about my roommate, Zach. So he said, well, is he doing anything for May Day? I said, I don't think so. And they said, well, isn't he one of those Occupies? Isn't he going to be an Occupy event? I said, no, Zach is not in Occupy, which he's not. And it turns out he doesn't even like Occupy on Facebook.
And then meanwhile, they took my roommate off to another room, the one who had been arrested before, to interrogate him about May Day. So that was why they were there. But the reason they claimed they were there was for this 5-year-old open beer ticket.
Like I had drunk beer outside in 2007, and I stopped drinking in September 28th, 2007. And I haven't drunk alcohol since. Thank you. Thank you.
And that's the thing, is that when Joe moved into my apartment, he gave up booze. And he's actually stayed sober without a program, which is kind of an achievement.
So Ray Kelly had no idea I was A, alive, B, living here. If I had $50 to pay for the summonses, didn't matter to him. All he wanted, and I'll tell you this, Ray Kelly, and you tell me if I'm wrong, you just wanted your intelligence people to get into the houses of the 6 people who were arrested at this party that was escalated into a riot. I don't know what cops think we're up to. We're artists. Hi. We're the good guys. Ray, we're the good guys. And Commissioner Raymond Kelly takes a notion to surveil one of your friends. After 5 years, you are likely to be used for his foul ends.
So, Joe being Joe, he turned this story into this elaborate song piece, very funny. And he would play it at the open mic where he hosts, the Tuesday Teacup, it's called, at Goodbye Blue Monday.
Shamelessness is necessary for the enjoyment of the performing life.
No,
so
I'm
we
sorry I
replace that
said-
with what we
no,
meant
I'm
in the first place, which is kick ass.
That's what we
Come
meant.
up here, kick ass. Be yourself, kick ass.
Somebody said
play your heart out.
I'm just
be
starting.
awesome.
I'm just
be
starting.
Awesome.
Well, Kick Acid just
You've always
started.
wanted to be awesome.
And
in
someone
your life,
said,
haven't
you know,
you?
I was on
Well,
national
that's why
tour. Well,
you
Kick
come up
Acid
here,
being a
be
real professional.
I mean, it takes a lot just to try to look cool up there, you know.
Well, you just be yourself.
Right. You guys are great together.
Thank you.
The chemistry's great.
All right, carry on.
The people that come to that open mic are such a family that they were like, Joe, that's a great song. Like, are you going to record that? Is that going to go on the new album and all that stuff? And it actually kind of came together through those connections, like through that family.
May the circle be unbroken by and by, oh, by and by.
Erin Blue recorded it in her home studio, and those people are mostly just people from the Tuesday Teacup who are like, yeah, Joe, we'll play bass, we'll play uke, we'll play drums, we'll sing in a backup choir, and it's kind of just pure magic.
I set Joe Crow free. And it turns out good. Like, that's the luck of the Irish, is that I got arrested, my shoulders got bent out of whack, and I was able to get involved with a great song, a great room of loving friends who wanted to be there and play this song and record it, and it's a great video.
So I don't know, Joe found the silver lining in it, which was that it made for a good song story.
Let's hear that. Let's hear that one. Killed it. Where's that weird, sad fish aroma? Or something. Oh, this is my warm-up. I didn't do my warm-up for you. I paid for a guitar lesson once. So a big part of my philosophy comes from my dealing with Jesus, is that everything's all right. A lot of times I kvetch inside because things are some way or another. And even though poverty suits my temperament, it's not easy, but it'll pass. I do dishes before I go out. Now my franchise is called This Machine Kills Purists. But to me, I am a purist in the way I do dishes. If I'm a purist about anything, and you do them all like this,